I'm Jared Fry, General Manager of Medina TV.
Hi, and I'm Jacqueline Rinksmeyer, Executive Director of the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce. The mission of the Chamber of Commerce is to serve our member investors and promote business interests through economic development, business advocacy, and member services, which benefits the Greater Medina community. The Chamber is funded by voluntary membership from the business community. It is a not-for-profit, nonpartisan business organization, and we do not receive tax dollars to operate the organization. The Chamber does not endorse candidates, but strives to educate the voters on both the candidates and the issues. And we are pleased to partner with Medina TV to bring these interviews to you. This program would not be possible without this collaboration. So thank you to our interviewer, Jared Fry, and our producer, Matt Tomick.
And as always, the views expressed in these interviews do not necessarily reflect those of Medina TV or the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce. We thank you for tuning in to the 2022 Candidates Forum and remind you to vote on November 8th. Joining us now in studio is the incumbent for the Court of Appeals 9th District, Donna Carr. Donna, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Why don't you start off first by just letting the viewers and our voters know a little bit about you?
Well, I'd be glad to. I am a judge on the 9th District Court of Appeals, where I have been since 1998, and the voters of Medina County have elected me as to be a part of the Court of Appeals in the 9th District, which includes Medina, Lorain, Summit, and Wayne counties. And I was going to say before that I was a trial judge in 1995 at a municipal court in Akron from 1995 to 1998. So I've been around a while.
A lot of experience there. Why don't you explain for the voters and the residents exactly what the 9th District Court of Appeals does?
Yes, I'd be glad to, because I think it's very important. It is an extremely important court, and unfortunately we don't get a lot of publicity, and that's always good to some degree when you're a judge. You're like, I don't want the publicity. But as a result, the voters in the community don't know exactly what we do, and some people have never even heard of us. And I always say, if you haven't heard of something in the judicial system, that's a good thing. That means you haven't been involved in it. So, but anyway, the 9th District Court of Appeals is one of 12 judicial districts in the state of Ohio, and as I said, we cover Wayne, Medina, Lorain, and Summit County. And any case that's heard in the trial court level, whoever loses that case can go on to appeal to our court. Some of the people watching may have heard of Judge Collier or Judge Kimbler or one of those judges. Those judges have jury trials, as they're called, and it might be a robbery, it might be a murder case, where a jury finds the person guilty, and then they get to appeal. There's one appeal as of right in the state of Ohio, and that goes through our court system, the appellate district. Then we sit on panels of 3. There are 5 judges in the 9th District Court of Appeals, but we sit on panels of 3, and by a majority vote determine whether we're going to uphold the conviction or reverse or remand or whatever else. Now, I want the people that are watching, though, to know that it's not just criminal cases. They're all anything that goes through the court system. That could be juvenile, that could be domestic relations, which is divorce, custody. It could be small claims, municipal court, anything that there's a trial court where they first are involved in the court system and have either a verdict or a judgment against them, then they can appeal to us. Mm-hmm. What's really important to know, I think, about the Court of Appeals is, for all intents and purposes, our court, the Court of Appeals, is the court of last resort for most people that enter the court system. In other words, the only court above us is the Ohio Supreme Court, and the Ohio Supreme Court has to accept jurisdiction to hear a case. In other words, they don't have to accept everything. Mm-hmm. So there's probably only about 4% of the cases that go to the Ohio Supreme Court. So that's why we say, for all intents and purposes, we are the court of last resort, because about 96% of the cases don't go any further.
So for the average citizen or the average resident, they, like you said, they may not even step foot in
That's right.
the courthouse or the courtroom for that case. Could you kind of explain what kind of skill set that you would bring or that you have brought to the job over these years that would be vital to the position?
Well, you know, it's funny because I remember when I first ran for judge, I was asked about that, and one of the things I said was common sense and integrity. And I'll never forget the interviewer at that point. He's like, common sense and integrity. He says, what about, ability and all these things? And I said, well, yes, I mean, you have to have the ability to do it, but you have to be licensed as an attorney, and you have to have been an attorney for 6 years at least. And I think it's good to, if possible, to be a trial judge before you're on the Court of Appeals. We've had some excellent judges in the Court of Appeals that have not been trial judges, but I think that's always a plus. It's not a requirement, but it's a plus, which I have been a trial judge. But I told the person at that point, and this was 27 years ago, I said, research abilities, the law can be taught, but you can't teach somebody common sense and integrity. And I still feel that way, except that now, 27 years later, I feel that I still have the common sense and integrity, but I have 27 years worth of experience to go along with it. And I've been very, very blessed, and I love what I do.
Oh, that's great. Now, as far as the judicial system, do you see any major obstacles that faces the judicial system today?
Again, it's unfortunate. I was going back and looking at some of my responses to questions where I've run in the past for a judge, and one of the things I've always been concerned about is the perception of the courts and the perception of justice, fairness, and so forth. And I have to say, even though I was concerned about it 10, 12 years ago, it's just predominant now. That's the major issue. I think it's so important that we, as judges, maintain the independence of the third branch of government. And I also feel that it's very, very important not only to do justice, but to help the community understand and perceive that justice is being done, because it's very, very disheartening if the people that really need the court system, not only for their individual cases personally, but for our whole system of government, for the rule of law, if they feel like they can't trust the system, if they feel that they can't trust the judges, if they can't trust the court system itself. And that is something that, quite frankly, absolutely breaks my heart, because that's something that's been in my mind and on my heart for the whole time I've been on the bench. And I think it's worse now than it has ever been. And so that's something that I really work hard on, is not only doing justice, but also trying to provide information to the electorate and to the community, and help them to have confidence in that.
And how difficult is it? Because the 9th District covers such a large area, as you mentioned, 4 or 5 different counties there. How are you able to do that? Or do you see a consensus among the residents of those areas?
Well, I'll tell you what, it is difficult. I think it's difficult any place where you're a judge, to try to make sure that people understand that you are trying to uphold the rule of law and being impartial and fair, which obviously is the main thing with a judge. You've got to be impartial and fair. But we've done a few things in the Court of Appeals over the years that I've been there, and one of them is as a matter of fact, I helped start it. It's a program called Courtroom in the Classroom. I always do that, Courtroom in the Classroom. And our court actually goes to any school in our district, be it Lorain, Medina, Wayne, or Summit, that wants to have us, and we'll conduct our actual court proceedings there. And we've done it in Medina High School before. We've done it at different places. And that's an opportunity for the community to come out there. They might feel more comfortable going to the local high school than to the courthouse itself. As well as the main reason we did it was we want there to be a good good relationship and start building a good relationship with the next generation, and for the kids to see judges in their professional capacity, but to be able to meet them as people and just have more confidence in that branch of government. So that's one of the things we do. We try to do as much as we can. We were the first district in Ohio to start videotaping our oral arguments, to have more access to the public so that they could feel more part of the system and be able to evaluate it.
Yeah. So as far as I guess as you look at your leadership skills, what would differentiate you, number one, I guess, from your opponent, and then two, what kind of leadership skills would you bring to the office just to let the viewers and the residents of the area know here in Medina County? Well,
I would answer that two-part. One, I recently received an award for servant leadership, and I'm very, very mindful of that. You lead by example, and you wouldn't ask somebody to do something you wouldn't do. You care about people. Second of all, though, I have been a leader for the last 27 years. I've been the administrative judge. I've been the presiding judge. I actually have been chief judge of the whole Court of Appeals Association for all the districts in Ohio. I've had to do many things, including grievances against Ohio Supreme Court justices. I've had to start that process as a leader, in my capacity with the Court of Appeals Judges Association. So I've had those roles, and look forward to continuing with that. But I will say, the older I've gotten, the more convinced I am, to like I said, to lead by example and to show people you care, because I do care, and I think my staff would tell you that. I think the people I work with would tell you that, and I like to think the people that I serve in the 9th District would tell you that as well.
Now, how valuable is experience and leadership when you're looking at a race this year where 3 of the 5 seats for the 9th District are up for election? How important is it to have that experience and leadership?
I am so glad you mentioned that, because that's one of the things that concerns me every time I run for re-election. And because there are only 5 of us. So if you would, for some reason, not elect the 3 incumbents. Now it's a little different this year because we have an open seat, and then we have 2 incumbents running. But I think it's very important to know that you have to, if you have 3 out of 5, the majority of the seats that come up, it doesn't necessarily have to be the incumbent, but it has to be somebody that has experience. And of course, I always tell everybody, I've been doing this for 27 years, so I know what I'm getting into, and I'm still continuing to do it, and I want to do it. So, yeah, it's critical that you elect people that have some experience.
Yeah. Well, that's great, and thank you for taking the time to share your insights here and answer my questions I have. I appreciate that. Again, we're speaking with the incumbent, Donna Carr, for the Court of Appeals 9th District, and I want to give you the opportunity, you're kind enough to answer my questions, but in case there's anything I missed, I want to give you the opportunity to speak directly to the voters, so I'll turn the mic over to you.
Thank you. I have mentioned here today in the interview that the 9th District Court of Appeals, well, all the Court of Appeals system, but the 9th District encompasses your area. So it's a very important court because it is the court of last resort. But one of the other reasons is that anytime there's an opening on the Supreme Court because there's some kind of conflict or something, or one of the justices just can't serve for some reason, they look to the Court of Appeals. So I've sat on the Ohio Supreme Court as a visiting judge at least 9 times and participated in probably at least 15 cases. So it's just an important role, and it just is something that the community doesn't always know about, but I'm very, very happy to be here today and be able to talk to you about it. I have been, like I said, on the court for 24 years and 27 years as a judge. As I just said, I know what I'm getting into, and I love it.
All right, again, that's the incumbent, Donna Carr, for the 9th District Court of Appeals. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for being part of the political process,
absolutely.
and best of luck this November.
I appreciate that. Thank you for having me.